Hey, welcome back. So, check it out. I've been searching around for some stuff and I decided that I want to start building a Nightstalker tribal deck. And most of those, well, majority of them are found in Portal Second Age. And so I've been doing general card searches for Portal Second Age, and I figured I would go through it with you guys, and you can check out some of the really cool art, see some of these really neat cards, and a lot of them actually have been reprinted because they were so, I guess effective would be the word. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm trying out a new way to view this. So if you like how this setup is, to where you can see the card itself and the art, you don't really have to see the rulings of it, then that's pretty good. So the good thing about these cards and the rules that'll be on them is that it's very simple, as you can see, right? It'll even give you an explanation. And that's because Portal Second Age, I believe it was released in 98 as Portal, and then 99, 2000, it came out as Portal Second Age, which is a, number 2 really. So what it is a starter set that you could buy, dual decks for. They also had some booster packs, and they had some decks, but not many. It's a little bit of an obscure set. I had quite a few of these because they would sell the boxes at Kmart. Fun fact about that: Kmart, for those of you who don't know, is a one time a competitor for Walmart. It was a superstore in a sense. And so at the time, I um, would come from school, and my parents worked at a barber shop, and so I'd walk from the barber shop down to Kmart, which wasn't that far down the road, and spend usually my weekly allowance and buy the $20 dual deck Portal Second Age set. They usually came with like one or two booster packs. It also came with a CD-ROM that taught you how to play the game. And so you'll see that a lot of the language on these cards will be really simplistic and easy to understand. Which is, I mean, great for new players, right? It has tons of reminder text on it. But also it shows you these little symbols that you'll see where you've got the dagger and you have the shield. So you know that that's the daggers for their attack power and the shields for their toughness, which I think is really neat. They don't really do that with new stuff. You also see there's will be a lot of parentheses to tell you exactly what it means. And because this is the early, late 90s, early 2000s, they don't have a lot of standardized things. So you'll see, attacking does not cause creature to tap, which we know is vigilance now. So they'll be retconned in Oracle for some of these rules. But for the most part, you've got real big creatures. You have simple effects. Some of these cards wind up being a little bit pricey. A lot of them have been reprinted. So let's get into it and just check out these, and we'll talk about it as we go. So first off, we've got the Abyssal Nightstalker, which another neat thing that you'll notice about this art is that those are a lot of guns, like a bunch of guns. You'll see that the Abyssal Nightstalker has a rifle slung across his back, and you'll also see like this cavalier, he's got a blunderbuss. It's really fantastic art, real fantastical. From what I understand, it's type of its own plane of existence. Really, it doesn't have anything to do with Dominaria, which was the predominant plane at the time, which kind of confused a lot of people. Myself as like a 10-year-old or however old I was at the time, I was like, well, how does this fit into Dominaria? Why isn't Nightstalker in any of the books? Why do they have guns and they don't really talk about it? Of course, they have mana rays in the books at that time. But yeah, the art is going to be, I think, my favorite part of this review and look over. But Bissell Nightstalker is a black and 3 colorless Nightstalker creature. If Abyssal Nightstalker attacks and isn't blocked, your opponent chooses and discards a card from his or her hand. He's a 2/2. The art of it is really what gets me. I like how just, awfully, macabre and spindly the Nightstalkers are. It's really cool. They're great villains for this set. And a lot of times it's really just, you know, humans versus the Nightstalkers, or, you know, the woodland creatures or goblins, you know, or the Nightstalkers and goblins versus the humans and the elves. And, you know, the blue stuff is usually like, as you'll see, elementals or just straight magic. So it's pretty neat. I think it's really cool for flavor. Most of the humans, which are considered soldiers and knights, will be in white. Then you've got the air elemental, 2 blue, 3 colorless, flying, 4/4. Real simple, right? Then you've got this Aldeborn Cavalier. When it attacks, you may choose to tap any one creature, and tap creatures can't block. So how about that? Even tells you what happens. We've got a Aldeborn Grenadier. Attacking doesn't call Aldeborn Grenadier to tap. 2 white. And then you've got Aldeborn Musketeer. White and a colorless. Aldeborn Musketeer can only block creatures with flying. Aldeborn Trooper. White, 2 colorless for a 2/3. So good value, I suppose. And then you've got the Aldeborn Veteran. White, 2 colorless. On your turn before you attack, you may tap Aldeborn Veteran to give any one creature 2/2 until the end of the turn. Aldeborn Zealot. White. If Aldeborn Zealot blocks, destroy both Aldeborn Zealot and the creature it blocks. So that's kind of neat. It has a little bit of a death touch on a white creature, so think about that. Not all around death touch, but most of the time people use death touch as a defensive measure. So there you go. It's a white creature with death touch. How about that? Oh, alluring scent. If this alluring scent isn't something else, I don't know what it is. You know, this guy's conveniently behind an azalea bush, I'm assuming. So 2 green, 1 colorless. Choose any one creature. This turn, all creatures able to block do so. So really, this is a lure effect. Lure. I'm Southern, so it's going to be hard pronouncing, you know, L-U-R-E without sounding like lore. Anyway, so, you know, that's a neat card, and I'm actually going to pick up a copy of this. Oop, let me go up here so you can see it. There we go. Then we go down here to starting to get into some of the angels here, it seems. Ancient Craving. So if you don't know about Ancient Craving, it's a fantastic card. You pretty much pay 1 black, 3 colorless to draw 3 cards, but you lose 3 life. Not bad tempo. Obviously, you can get better value in modern cards, but if you're really looking for more card draw in black to get that tempo, and you can deal with that 4 mana cost, this is a great card, especially if you're starting out with black. We got Angel of Fury, 2 white, 4 colorless, flying. If Angel of Fury is put into your graveyard from play, you may choose to shuffle it back into your library for a 3/5. I think that's neat because you can shuffle it back in. You can keep your library stocked if you needed to. Angel of Mercy. This is one of my favorite ones, and it's a Melissa A. Benson. This one of my favorite artists, honestly. So 1 white, 4 colorless, flying. When Angel of Mercy comes into play from your hand, you gain 3 life. Oh, at the time, I played a lot of angels back in the day, back in the 2000s, because a lot of them were common, and I thought they were just really cool. You know, also my parents didn't freak out when I had angels. They'd freak out with something like, you know, the Bissell Nightstalker or something like that. You gotta remember that back in the 2000s, this was considered demonic. So white's really the only thing that kind of carried the game in some parents' eyes. But yeah, Angelic Blessing, a white 2 colorless. Any one creature gets +3/+3 and gains flying until end of the turn. Angelic Wall. So it's I don't know if it's been retconned, but that'd be hilarious if it was an Angel Wall. What a subtype. Anyway, I think it's just a wall. So 1 white, 1 colorless, flying. Walls can't attack. So that's the reminder. Because at the time, that was a standard rule. When you had a wall out, it was assumed that you knew that walls can't attack. So a lot of times you'll see a wall and it won't say walls can't attack. It'll just say wall within the text itself, not just the creature type. The Apprentice Sorcerer. I really like this art. It's really cool. To me, it really feeds into that, you know, that blue aesthetic. Of course, you've got a goblin over there getting bolted by this sorcerer. So 1 blue, 2 colorless. On your turn, before you attack, you may tap Apprentice Sorcerer to have it deal 1 damage to any 1 creature or player. So if you're playing Wizards, because it does have the Wizard super type, that's a neat one to do, so you can crank those out. Oh man, Archangel. I absolutely love this art, and this is one thing that really drew me into to white at the time. You know, it's just it's otherworldly. It's somewhat futuristic. You know, to me, it's next level fantasy art here. So flying, attacking doesn't cause Archangel to tap. So 2 white, 5 colors for a 5/5 that has vigilance. I mean, not bad for the time. It was a complete banger whenever I was a kid. Because like I said, I played a lot of Angels. White had the same problem it does now. You couldn't produce enough mana. You really did have to rely on artifacts, smaller creatures, so it was Knights and Angels most of the time. Armageddon. 1 white, 3 colors, destroy all lands. This includes your lands, which I think that's funny. Just to put the reminder in, yeah, you get fucked over too. Anyway, Armored Galleon. Also, the ships at this time were really just fantastic. Nothing was considered a vehicle at the time, so you'll see a lot of like Skyship Weatherlight or Predator Flagship. They'll either be like a creature type, or they'll straight up be an artifact. And the Skyships most of the time were just straight artifacts. They're not a creature. So ships in the water, for some reason they considered those to be creatures. You see this with pirate ship, things like that. So Armored Galleon, 1 blue, 4 colors. Armored Galleon can't attack unless the defending player has an island in play. So that's their nerf for a 5/4 for 5, which is pretty hilarious. Really cool art design here. I like that you've got these wispy cells that are going on, and the armored aspect of it is, you know, like I said, otherworldly, kind of futuristic stuff, steampunk almost. Bargain, white, 2 colorless. Your opponent draws a card, but you gain 1 life. Absolutely horrible. I mean, you really got to make this cook. At the time, I thought it was great. I played it, and it never worked out. Barbed-Tooth Worm, 1 green, 5 colorless, 6/4. That's it. So Worm Tribal, go for it. Armored Griffin, 1 white, 3 colorless, flying. Attacking doesn't cause Armored Griffin to tap. A lot of vigilance in this set, you'll notice. Well, I'm noticing now, honestly. Oh, a bear cub. Well, it's a bear. You know, they surprisingly don't have an adult bear, but a bear cub is just as strong as a regular bear. So 1 green, 1 colorless for a 2/2. Bee Sting, hilarious art. 1 green, 3 colorless. It's a goblin getting stung by bees is just hilarious. So it's a burn spell in green where it does 2 damage to any 1 creature or player. So how about that? Then you've got Blaze. You know, it looks like it may be this ship that may be shooting off or catching on fire. Maybe the Armored Galleon. Well, 1 red and X. It does X damage to any 1 creature or player. Blaze, this is obviously a reprint. Blaze has been around for a while, and it's still being reprinted today. But again, this art is what really is dragging you in. Blood Curling Scream. So this is going into my Nightstalker deck because, again, we've got another Nightstalker here. And you can see he's got his little rifle going on. So how about that? So black, X. Any 1 creature gets +X +0 until end of the turn. And this is actually pretty solid. If you're trying to get an effect like this where you can dump mana into a creature, you can dump it into your commander, which is what I'm going to be using it for. This is a really neat sorcery spell. I mean, it's not as good as Hatred, obviously, but it's a budget Hatred without paying a life. So still not as good, but if you've got the mana line around, why not? Breath of Life, white, 3 colorless. Take any 1 creature card from your graveyard and put that creature into play. Treat it as though you just played it from your hand. So how about that? White bringing stuff right back onto the battlefield. Not too bad. Not too bad. Brimstone Dragon. Wow, you really have to appreciate this one. So 2 red, 6 colors for 6/6. But Brimstone Dragon is unaffected by summoning sickness, and of course has flying. So an 8 drop for 6, a 6/6 8 drop with flying and haste. You know, absolute banger at the time. You know, we've got Brutal Nightstalker, another one of the awesome arts of Nightstalkers. 2 black, 3 colors. When Brutal Nightstalker comes into play from your hand, you may force your opponent to choose and discard a card from his or her hand. It's a 3/2. Chorus of Woe, 1 black. All your creatures get 1+1/+0 till end of the turn. Pretty solid if you're, you know, doing a creature fest deck. If you're doing a bunch of tokens, a 1 drop to do an anthem effect for a turn is pretty solid, I think. Coastal Wizard, 2 blue, 2 colors. On your turn before you attack, you may tap Coastal Wizard to return it and any one other creature to their owner's hands. A little bit pricey for that ability, but you know, it's not too bad. Coercion. Whoops, here we go. So 1 black, 2 colors. Look at your opponent's hand and choose a card. Your opponent discards that card. This is a common. It's been reprinted quite a few times. Again, Nightstalkers are in this art, and that's why I like it a lot. I'm going to be playing in the deck. You know, it's a discard effect. There's so many different printings of this, but this is one of my favorite coercion printings. Cruel Edict. Black, 1 colorless. Your opponent chooses one of his or her creatures. Destroy that creature. So, you know, not awful for it being a black and a colorless, but not too awful helpful. It's not really spot removal, but you know, I'm playing it because you've got your Nightstalker sitting on the throne there. You've got what looks like what happened after the coercion battle there. So that's a neat one. Cunning Giant, 1 red, 5 colorless. If Cunning Giant attacks and isn't blocked, you may choose to have it deal its damage to any one of your opponent's creatures instead of him or her. I think that's pretty cool. You know, if you can really bump it up, then you can hit those creatures pretty hard. You know, it's a neat effect. Darkmoor Bat, black, 1 colorless, flying, 1/1. That's a pretty common thing. You'll see a 2-drop flying 1/1 in black across a lot of the sets back in the day. Because I mean, that it is honestly pretty solid value. If you could get a flying 1/1 for 1, whew, you know, it's pretty good. In standard, you see it a lot, but yeah, it's plus look at him. He's about to get that moth. Pretty cool art. Darkmoor Plague, 2 black, 3 colorless. Darkmoor Plague deals 3 damage to each creature and player. So you can hit all the players in that pod with this, 3 damage on it, and you get all the creatures. Of course, you know, as a reminder, this includes your creatures in you. I love that. It's so funny. But yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid board wipe for the limited build that I'm doing. Then this is to me going to be just absolutely a crucial to bide that time to get these Nightstalkers going. Darkmoor Scorpion, black, 1 colorless, as a 2/1. Here we go. Now I'm actually going to see about clicking on this one because I absolutely, you know, if I say I have a crush on it, I mean, come on, why wouldn't you have a crush on this chick? So Darkmoor Sorceress, black, 5 colorless, wizard, as a star 4. Darkmoor Sorceress has power equal to the number of swamp cards you have in play. So, yeah, look at this. Isn't this just cool? She's just an awesome card. Just really great art. You know, I mean, it's cool if you have a crush on her too. You know, I'm sure plenty of people do. But surprisingly enough, even though it's a rare, even though it's got kind of a name, I mean, it really doesn't. It's a generic name. But I wish that this was a legendary creature. I would totally run her as a commander. I think it'd be really cool. There's a lot of effects you can do too to make creatures swamps. You could do, you know, some playing around with the swamp keywords. Now, yeah, swamps you control. Okay, yeah. But, yeah, if you do a whole complete dump of swamps onto the battlefield, yeah, why not? Let's go back to the list here. Dark Offering, 2 black, 4 colorless. Destroy any one creature that isn't black. Gain through life. What a price to pay. 6 mana to just gain through life and destroy a creature. You know, at the time, sure, why not? But not really. Oh, another worm. Death Coral Worm. 2 green, 6 colorless, 7/6. If Death Coral Worm attacks and is blocked, you may choose to have it deal its damage to the defending player instead of to the creatures blocking it. So there's a couple of different abilities that aren't really considered evergreen and haven't made the cut since the early 2000s. One of these, I can't remember the name of it. It has like ram through or something like that, and we'll look it up later. It's when this creature attacks, you may have it deal its damage to target player as though it wasn't blocked. Now, a lot of people think that means trample, but it's not. There's like 6 or 7 creatures, usually in green, that do this, and it's not trample. It actually works the exact way it's worded. This is kind of one of those, and there's a specific name for it, but they've never actually went through and printed it. It's been the community has kind of created their own wording for it. But yeah, if Death Coral Worm attacks and is blocked, you may choose to have it deal its damage to the defending player instead of to the creature blocking it. And as a 7/6, this is pretty good, especially if they have a full board. You know, you don't have to worry about splitting the damage between what's blocking it and your opponent, right? Because, you know, the power and all that, you get the full damage that's going right to the opponent. Or you can choose to just have it deal damage to whatever's blocking it. So really it's a win-win. Rhinox is another one of these cards that does this. And it's a really interesting build if you want to go into green. Talk about a friend strategy. I don't hear a lot of people talking about this type of mechanic, but I think it'll pop up one more time in this set. In the early 2000s, it was somewhat prevalent in green. So let's move on here. Let's see what we got here. So Deepwood, we got some Nightstalkers that are getting lost here. So you've got 1 green, 1 colorless. Play Deepwoods only after you've attacked, before you declare blockers. You are attacked. So this is whenever you're declaring blockers. This turn, all damage dealt to you by attacking creatures is reduced to 0. So it's it's a instant speed spell, but not really, because it's a sorcery, right? Which I think it's pretty wild. You know, why they didn't just, I mean, them Oracle text may have changed it. But, you know, it's a fog effect. So if you're running a lot of fogs and you need them, you know, I would pick this up. Oh, Deja Vu. Fantastic card. 1 blue, 2 colorless. Return any 1 sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. If you're playing a lot of sorcery, you know, why not play this? It's a great one. It's, you know, kind of a graveyard tutor if you want to think of it like that. But you are restricted to sorceries. But, honestly, what I remember this being helpful to do was going and getting temporal manipulation, which is taking an extra turn. Because you would burn the extra turn, then you would run into your next turn, play your Deja Vu, pull temporal manipulation, hit it again, you know, play another Deja Vu, you know, you do a whole thing. You know, it's a pretty neat way of going back and about it. I'm a big fan of pulling cards from the graveyard to your hand, especially if you're spell slinging. Denizen of the Deep's next. It's an 11/11, so you know it's going to have a drawback. It's only 2 blue and 6 colorless. When Denizen of the Deep comes into play from your hand, return all your other creatures from play to your hand. So not bad. I mean, most of the time you would play this and it wouldn't matter to bring all your creatures back. Back in the day, when you were playing these starter decks, creatures were the big thing. But once you got more advanced into playing it, it all became about spell slinging, and the creatures didn't really matter. So you might throw Denizen of the Deep in there onto the battlefield, and you wouldn't have creatures out there anyway, but you would use this to finish your opponent. Of course, we didn't have Commander back then either, so everybody played with 20 to life. Of course, you could do rules to do like, but nobody ever did it. We've got Earthquake up next here. 1 red, X. Earthquake deals X damage to each player and each creature without flying. This is a reprint. It's been around for a while, and it keeps coming back quite a few times. If you're playing dragons or you're doing a creature-heavy deck, you know, why not play this? This is a decent board wipe, but you have to put your X into it. Exhaustion. 1 blue, 2 colors. At the beginning of your opponent's next turn, he or she skips untapping creatures and lands. Alright, so the funny thing about Exhaustion is that this is also a reprint at the time. And it's been reprinted maybe once or twice. I'm not sure. But this is a staple in a blue control deck that you want to build. I've played it quite a few times. I like it a lot. You know, and if you can flash something in, you can hit it with a flash on that sorcery speed, but you're flashing it. But Exhaustion is pretty solid. You just played it right there at the end of your turn, and you're good to go. Extinguish. One blend. Interesting enough, the Extinguish here, the blue is kind of funky compared to the rest. But you need 1 blue, 1 colorless. Play Extinguish only in response to another player playing a sorcery. That sorcery has no effect, and that player puts it into his or her graveyard. You know, another interesting thing about this is that it has this Extinguish label as a sorcery, but it's obviously an instant type effect that you're doing. But you're doing it in response to a sorcery. You know, so I think that's an interesting limitation for a counterspell. If you're really hurting for a counterspell, I mean, go for it. You could counter all kinds of really big sorceries. Let's see here. I Spy. Look at the top card of any player's library. You may choose to put that card back on top of that library or into that player's graveyard. So this is a pretty neat little 1-drop spell. And showing at sorcery speed as well, but I feel like this probably is an instant. You know what we're going to do is I'm going to look here at Extinguish and see if Oracle has changed it. Because I'm wondering if they just didn't. Yep. So it is an instant. So it seems at the time that they didn't have instants here. So how about that? Alright, let's go back here real quick. So some of these may actually be instants. It's worth taking a look at them if you're interested in them and finding out for yourself if you like it and you think it's an instant. It probably is. Kind of like False Summoning. I'm pretty sure False Summoning is an instant because it's a reprint from like Alliances. So False Summon is 1 blue, 1 colorless. Play False Summoning only in response to another player playing a creature. That creature card has no effect, and that player puts it into his or her graveyard. So it's a counterspell for creatures. Yeah, so this is, well, how about that? They don't have instants in this set, I suppose not to confuse people. Instead, they're just loaded down with sorceries, which kind of doesn't make sense for the time. But then again, I suppose that the rules for it weren't as intricate as what they are now as far as typing goes and card typing. But yeah, it's a good thing that they are now retconned to be instant speed as what they should be. So isn't that something? I feel like you probably could have gotten away with this saying it was a different copy of the original False Summoning because it's typed as a sorcery instead of an instant. I don't know. It doesn't matter because it's not 2,000, I suppose. Here we go. Festival of Troken. 1 white. For each creature you have in play, you gain 2 life. So, there's another one that's like this. And it's actually a really strong effect if you have a lot of tokens. So if you're playing white, you're generating 20, 30 tokens. Even if you have 15 of them and you dump this thing down, I mean, this is a great value for 1 white. You know, I'm a big fan of this card as far as if you're playing a lot of creatures. You know, 2 life for each creature. Solid, man. Plus, that's an instance of life per. Right? So, for each creature, you're gaining 2 life. So, if you have the stipulation that each time you gain life, right, then whatever happens, this technically would count in that, I'm thinking, because for each creature, you're gaining 2 life. I might be wrong, but that's how I would look at it. Either way, it's a really cool effect. And then, of course, you've got a forest here. And like I said, the art is really just going to really get you if you like that high fantasy / steampunk. It looks like we're starting to get into the goblins. I'm pretty excited. So check out this Foul Spirit here, though. It's black. 1 black, 2 colorless, flying for 3/2. When Foul Spirit comes into play from your hand, destroy one of your lands. That's terrible. A 3/2 flyer for 3, man. When you're getting, I mean, I guess, going by their logic, a 1/1 flying costs 2. So if you have a 3/2, then that should cost 6, based on their logic. So their nerf is saying, hey, instead of paying 6, you're paying 3. But you got to sacrifice something. You have to destroy a land. I don't even know if it's sacrifice. It could be. Let's see here if it is a sacrifice. If it's a sacrifice, it is. Look at this here. We'll scroll down. When Foul Spirit enters the battlefield, sacrifice a land. Even better. So I'll tell you what. If you're really hard up for a black 3/2 flyer and you have sacrifice triggers on just generic permanents, I would build this in a budget build just because you get a sacrifice trigger and you get a 3/2 flying body. And that's if you're in a really restricted format, if you're going for budget. Because I almost guarantee you that this Foul Spirit, you can get it for less than 1 cent. It may have even been shredded because it's so bad. But I think it'd be funny to play this in a sacrifice deck. All right, so then you've got Goblin Cavaliers. 1 red, 2 colorless for a 3/2. Goblin Firestarter. I think this is absolutely hilarious. 1 red for a 1/1. On your turn before you attack, you may destroy Goblin Firestarters that have it deal 1 damage to any one creature or player. And then you've got Goblin General. When Goblin General attacks, all your goblins get 1/1 until the end of the turn, and it costs 2 red, 1 colorless for a 1/1. And we've got Goblin Glider. 1 red, 1 colorless, flying, but it can't block, but it's a 1/1 goblin. I'll tell you what we're going to do right now. We're going to pause this video, and I'll make this part 1, so it's only like 30-some minutes, and then I'll come back and do a part 2 for you. So hang in there. It'll all come at the same time, so don't worry about it. The uploads may take a little bit longer in between, but there will be a part 2.